Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Pokemon Detective Pikachu, starring Ryan Reynolds, Justice Smith, Catherine Newton, Bill Nighy, and Ken Watanabe, directed by Rob Letterman. Now, I remember going to theaters for this thing, and how do I feel about it? Well, it might be the same as I feel about it now. Let's get into it. We open with Harry Goodman, who was in an accident in the middle of the mountains as a car flips over thanks to Mewtwo. Remember him from the first movie? Awakening, which was reminding me a heck of a lot of the first Pokemon movie. As this opening is kind of similar, but a minor difference, as this is a shorter opening sequence than in the first movie, as it took 10 minutes. So I'm thankful there's not a narration, but no background voice narrating about Mewtwo. While we move on to a small town where we meet Tim Goodman, played by Justice Smith, as he's hanging out with a friend named Jack who wants Tim to capture a Cubone, whom I remember from an episode of the TV show, but is rather unsuccessful and continues to hang out with Jack as he's an insurance man until he gets a message about his father being in an accident of some kind. Excuse me. While he takes the train there and he learns what Rhyme City is all about, where humans and Pokemon could live together thanks and not fight one another, thanks to Howard Clifford, played by Bill Nighy, and his son Roger, who reluctantly agrees with his father, and the characters are interesting to watch as the CGI and the Pokemon look pretty good, even though it looked crappy in the trailers, excuse my French. Tim goes to the Rhyme City Police Department that is ran by Lieutenant Hyde Yoshida, played by Ken Watanabe, who was his father's boss and fills Tim in on what happened to his father. And Lieutenant Yoshida gives Tim the address as well as the keys to his father's apartment as he walks there, and he arrives and sees a Psyduck looking at him, and he meets a reporter for the CNN, not confused with CNN, but CNN, named Lucy Stevens, played by Catherine Newton, whom, in my opinion, stole the show for me as a character to watch. And Tim gets into the apartment and accidentally sprays something poisonous on his face and gets a monkey looking Pokemon, I forget their names off the top of my head, to attack them. In which I, for the life of me, like I said, don't remember the names of them. And Detective Pikachu, voiced by Ryan Reynolds, whom Tim can't understand, whom is led to believe, whom Tim can understand his English. And Ryan Reynolds was amusing as the character of Pikachu, as the detective. And I like the script as it's sometimes funny in a ha-ha way. Tim and Pikachu fight off the monkey Pokemon until Tim takes off his pants as they were attacking him, and Tim briefly makes a scene and asks people if they can understand his English, but they can't. And he's the only one that can. And gets some coffee, and Pikachu gets some coffee as people think Tim is a weirdo, while Pikachu has memory loss as he learns Tim is Harry's son, and Harry is dead, and Pikachu solves his case with theories of how Harry isn't dead yet. And Tim reluctantly helps Pikachu with his case as Pikachu works on it all night long while he's addicted to coffee while Tim sleeps on his bed that was made up by Harry. And there was times this movie was pretty funny in a ha-ha way, while the plot is absolutely entertaining me from start to finish. Tim and Pikachu go to C&M, where Lucy works at, and Roger and Howard happen to be there while Lucy tells Roger she may have a story for Roger and chews her out. And she sees Tim and Pikachu as she gets Pikachu, and they go to Lucy's office because Tim showed her something important in what she collected on the previous day. And Tim says something awkward as Pikachu says it didn't land right, and they leave and get back outside and encounter Mr. Mime. So they can interrogate it and tells Pikachu it could shove it. And Tim scares Mr. Mime by pouring gasoline on it until it talks as the Mr. Mime scene was in the trailer, but it wasn't as humorous as it was shown in the trailer. But sometimes the downer of trailers gives too much away. Pikachu and Tim go to a Pokemon battle as the owner recognizes Pikachu, defeating his Charizard a while ago, and gets into a battle with Charizard as he tries to do a Thunderbolt attack, and he can't do it and almost gets defeated by Charizard until Tim stops the battle while Charizard is poisoned by the purple gas as it makes Charizard corrupt until Tim gets information by the owner about where he got the purple gas. And Charizard comes back to normal, and Magikarp evolves into Gyarados, and it sprays water as Pikachu and Tim get arrested and has a discussion by Lieutenant Yoshida about how Harry is alive, and Tim and Pikachu see how Harry died in the beginning of the movie, in which I'm not buying as they're sad about what they saw, but the cinematography was nicely shot, and the action sequences were cool to watch. Tim and Pikachu get picked up by Howard's assistant named Ms. Norman and chat with Howard as they learn Howard is still alive. And Harry is still alive, and then Pikachu sacrifices his life to save Harry from Mewtwo, as Pikachu is led to believe Mewtwo wiped his memory, and they have to solve the mystery of Harry's accident. And they get out and to ask Lucy to meet them at the restaurant to learn the Cliffords are up to something and go to the mountains while going on the ride to the laboratory. Pikachu massages Psyduck's feet, and when they arrive, Lucy cuts through the fence, and looks for clues involving Harry's accident. As this is a reminder of when I played the card games versus video games versus have seen the TV show when I was younger, and this was a trip to memory lane in a much more positive way than in the previous movies. Some of Clifford's guards come to the laboratory where Tim, Lucy, Pikachu, and Psyduck, while Psyduck is annoying me to death, as Lucy and Tim split up with their Pokemon, while Lucy gets captured by a Pokemon of some kind, while Tim and Pikachu look at some video footage of how Mewtwo escaped, and Harry walks out of the laboratory, and Tim and Pikachu look for Lucy and Psyduck as they're captured by a Pokemon with tongue powers. It's not Lickitung, but it's someone else. And Tim, Pikachu, and Lucy and Psyduck escape the laboratory as Psyduck makes an explosion to get rid of the Pokemon, while Pikachu torments Psyduck like he never liked massaging his feet, for example. And the mountains erupt and turn sideways and have a perilous action scene. And it works for a Pokemon movie much more than the previous movies, as Tim jumps with Pikachu on his back while Lucy is on the ground, and they make it thanks to Lucy catching them before they fall, and the effects were good to look at. Pikachu is unconscious until a Bulbasaur is showing Tim and Lucy a way they can heal Pikachu with their powers, as Lucy goes to the car with Psyduck while Tim gets to the healing area in the mountains for Pikachu, and he wakes up as Mewtwo arrives and shows Pikachu what he did for Mewtwo to betray Harry until Roger and others capture Mewtwo, and Pikachu runs off on his own as he's afraid to betray Tim again, as well as hurting Tim, and Pikachu running away from Tim and Lucy as they get back to Rhyme City, and Tim goes to Howard while Lucy reports the news on the TV, and Pikachu sings the Pokemon theme song I remember from the first movie as well as the TV show. And that was a great reference to the theme song as he discovers Howard as the bad guy and runs back to Rhyme City, and I enjoy the references to the games as well as the TV show. Tim gets Howard to Howard's office, and he reveals that to Tim as the bad guy, Howard does, as I've seen some movies where Bill Nighy plays the bad guy as he attaches himself to Mewtwo and poisons the city with purple gas. As the Pokemon become very mean and turn humans into Pokemon, and Pikachu gets to the city while the parade is poisoning Pokemon, and Pikachu and Mewtwo fight one another as Pikachu is quick as he hops around, and eventually Tim sees Pikachu riding on a Pidgeotto while Roger was captured, and Ms. Norman is a Pokemon called Ditto and turns into a creepy looking Lucy who fights Tim as Pikachu flies all over the place, and Ditto turns into a Machamp as well as a Cubone, and Pikachu attacks and uses his electricity towards Mewtwo as Roger saves Tim's life, and Ditto comes back in and knocks out Roger as Tim melts Ditto, and pulls off Howard's helmet to control Mewtwo as Pikachu distracts Howard, aka Mewtwo, and Mewtwo saves Pikachu's life and heals everyone else as well as turns humans back to humans, and Howard gets arrested and Roger while tied up, and he promotes Lucy, and she and Tim will meet up for a celebration, and Mewtwo says Harry is inside the Pikachu, as Pikachu was Harry's partner as detectives, and Pikachu comes back to Harry as a human, and Pikachu as his Pokemon. And they almost say goodbye, but Tim wants to stay with his father, Harry, and Pikachu. to become a detective himself, and the climax was a pretty good time at the movies. But how good was this movie? Let's discuss it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 7.7 out of 10. The characters are interesting as Lucy stole the show from me, in my opinion, and Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu is amusing, while the CGI on the Pokemon looked pretty good, as the script as well as the plot was sometimes funny in a haha way, as it was entertaining as I was entertained from start to finish. The clips from the trailers gave some things away in the movie, and the downer trailers give so much of the movie away, as the cinematography is what was nicely shot, and the action sequences were cool to watch, and it was reminding me of a trip to memory lane when I played the Pokemon card games and video games and saw the TV show as a kid. And it was more pleasant here than in the previous movies. Psyduck annoys me to death, but this was a good time as it works for a Pokemon movie unlike the previous movies, and the effects in this look good, as this is a recommendation for this movie, as this is a good movie for a video game movie, as this is one of the 3 better video game movies, as I prefer the 3 Sonic the Hedgehog films and the Super Mario Brothers movie out of this. But don't get me wrong, I do like this movie as I enjoy the references to the games and the TV show, which made this a pretty good time. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, go check this out if you're a Pokemon fan. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this retrospective series, and until then, squeeze me very much, princess.